All right, today we're going to talk about solving proportions. And to start off, let's talk about what a proportion even is. So a proportion is any two fractions or ratios that are equal to each other. So I said, here's an example of a proportion. 6 over 3 equals 8 over 4. Now that's true because both of those actually equal 2. Remember, a fraction really means divide. So on one of them you have 6 divided by 3, which is 2. And the other is 8 divided by 4, which is also 2. So those are definitely equal. That would be what we call a proportion. Now usually, instead of having numbers everywhere, you're going to be solving a proportion. So maybe instead of the 6 or instead of the 4, there was an x in there that you were trying to solve for. If you need to solve a proportion, you can do it by what's called cross-multiplying. And cross-multiplying is exactly what it sounds like. It's when you multiply in a diagonal. You multiply across the equal sign, and you multiply diagonally. You multiply the top of one times the bottom of the other, and then you switch. The top of the second one times the bottom of the first one. And then you set those two things equal to each other and you solve. So it would look kind of like this. And I'm still not going to put an x in yet. We'll do that in the next slide, in our first example. But let's just take the one we already know is true. 6 over 3 equals 8 over 4. If I wanted to cross multiply for this one, let's do the 6 and the 4 first. And it really doesn't matter. I could have done the 8 and the 3 first, but I just picked two of them. So I take the 6 and the 4 and I multiply them. 6 times 4. Then I'm going to put the equal sign, and I'm going to multiply by the other two, the 8 times 3. Well, what you notice is that those things definitely are equal, because 6 times 4 is 24, and 8 times 3 is also 24, and 24 definitely equals 24. So it works. You know, we've proven that cross-multiplying does work. But now let's get to the actual question. So for our first example here, what we have is a solve for x proportion. But it's still the same thing. It's two fractions that are equal to each other. It's 2 over x equals 5 over 20. Now if I want to solve that, I'm going to do it by cross-multiplying. So let's pick one of them. It doesn't matter which one you do first. Let's do the 2 and the 20 first. So I do 2 times 20 equals, and then we'll switch and we'll do the other ones. X times 5. Now to finish out the question, you do the multiplication parts. 2 times 20 is 40, and x times 5 is 5x. Now to finish solving, there's only one step at this point. All I need to do is divide by 5 to cancel out the 5 in front of the x. So I divide both sides by 5 to cancel. 40 divided by 5 is the answer, which is 8. So x is 8. Now that's a proportion, and also how you can solve one if one of the pieces is missing. So let's try one more example. A little bit more complicated this time. Instead of just x, we have x plus 3. But that doesn't matter. We're going to solve it the same way. We're going to solve it by cross-multiplying. So I'm going to pick one of my diagonals, and I'm going to multiply them. 2 times 9 equals, and then I'm going to pick my other diagonal, and I'm going to multiply it. Now this is going to have to be distributive property, because what it really is 4 times x plus 3. So when I go to solve, 2 times 9 is 18. That's the easy part. Just remember here, when you're multiplying 4 times x plus 3, you have to do 4 times x, which is 4x, and 4 times 3, which is 12. So I get 4x plus 12. And now instead of one step to finish the question, there's two. If I want to solve for that x, the first thing I would do is get rid of the 12. So I'm going to subtract 12 from both sides of the equation and cancel that out. 18 minus 12 is 6. And we get just 4x. And we're going to finish by dividing by 4. Now the 4 cancels, and what we have right now is x equals 6 over 4. Now 6 divided by 4 isn't a whole number. It actually comes out to 1.5. And you can say 1.5 if you want, or you can leave it as a fraction. If you leave it as a fraction, we want to reduce it, because we can divide both of those numbers by 2. So the best answer here would be x equals 3 over 2, because 6 divided by 2 is 3, and 4 divided by 2 is 2. Or what you could say is x equals 1.5, and that might be if you just grabbed it and divided it on a calculator or something like that.